Hello and welcome to another episode of the Monday Mile podcast. Today we're going for a walk in the Cotswolds with a lady who has her own coat hook at Wimbledon. She's treated like royalty in SW19, where she's known as Her Royal Highness. She's played sport at the highest level and been one of very few ex-athletes to present multi-sport coverage on a major channel. She's been a role model to me. I can honestly say she's both incredibly humble and graceful. She's one of the greats. It's a privilege to be walking with the Sue Barker.
Oh, hey.
How are you, Sue?
It's lovely to see. Thank you for that intro. That's very nice.
I mean, you are so welcome. Thank you for walking with me down a strayed river pathway here in Oxfordshire.
I'm very excited. I didn't know this existed, so this is like a whole new experience. I'm going to come back here with my doggies.
So we're going on a little adventure mile.
We are, yes.
Now, we first met through A Question of Sport.
Of course, yes.
Great memories. And since then, we've been cruising.
We have been cruising.
I have learned that a ship is not called a boat.
Yes.
And I've had the privilege of spending quality time with both you, Matt, and Phill.
The naughty boys, yeah.
They really are. Now that bond is inseparable.
Honestly, it really is. I mean, Matt and I go back so many years because he joined in like 2004, so we were together for, 16 plus years. And then Tuffers, at least 12 years. So there is an amazing bond there. And the guys, that we have our own little WhatsApp group. We keep in touch. We're hoping that, it's early stages yet, but hoping to do a theatre tour in a sports quiz next year, 2025. So we're sort of hoping that we'll be able to do that. But fingers crossed, it would be great to get the gang back together.
That is very, very exciting. Do you miss that time with them?
Oh, God, yeah. That was the dream job. When David Coleman, who was the quiz host before I took over, he was like a mentor to me and an advisor to me. And he was very keen for me to take over. He asked me if I would take on A Question of Sport. And it was like, it was a dream to be on the show. So to actually become the host of it was an even bigger dream. So to do that was absolutely the best fun I've ever had in television. You've been on it, just meeting all the amazing people from all different sports. Everybody's competitive. Everyone wants to win. Everyone wants to have a laugh. And it was great fun meeting people and the time in the green room, getting to know people like yourself, all these people at all different sports, what makes them tick. It was just such great fun. And the boys just made everyone feel at home on the show. And although it didn't matter who won or lost, everybody cared, but it was great fun. And I look back at that job as the best fun I ever had in television.
Wow, that's really saying something. It's such a shame that it no longer exists. Even as an athlete, or former athlete, it's such a step in the right direction when it comes to opening up your own broadcast career, because it's a platform to show your personality without the mask on.
Exactly. And also, every time you're meeting people in sport, when we do our job, it's always when they've either won or lost. So emotions are either incredibly high or everyone's really sad. Whereas go on Question of Sport, you can just relax and you get to know the real person, so and I think that a lot of people miss it. I used to get people coming up to me and saying, how can I get on Question of Sport? Please, will you get me on Question of Sport? And I had to say, look, it's not my decision, but you have to keep winning. You have to keep, putting yourself out there. And I said, the better known you are, the more chance you got of coming on. And it was great. It was like a badge of honor to come on that show. It was for me back in the 70s and 80s when I first went on as a guest. I was really chuffed that I was asked. I felt I'd made it when I'd been on Question of Sport.
I remember the first time going on as well, and just being elated, arriving in the studio, meeting you for the first time. And then I'll never forget just how open and honest and interested you were. As the host, you often don't expect that when you get
No, they often hide away, don't they, and just turn up for recording. No, I mean,
I can confirm you are not like that.
But that was the fun of it, is actually getting to meet people, and particularly in the hair and makeup room. It always used to be hilarious, because everybody always liked a little bit of hair and makeup.
Oh yeah, get the red lip on.
It was hilarious. We had such fun times. We had fabulous girls working there as well, who are still friends of mine today. So it was just the best show, and I'm really disappointed for this next batch of athletes that they won't have that experience, but hopefully they'll bring it back, because they haven't said they're going to bin it forever. So bring it back and have fun again. It'll be great.
You took a step away from broadcasting 2022.
Yeah.
If that opportunity was ever to arise again, would that be the only job that you may or may not be tempted to revisit?
Listen, I would be amazingly tempted. I'd be tempted to question sport. I'd be tempted to go back to Wimbledon, but I know the right decision is no. No, the right decision for me is no, and the right decision for the programme is no. But if I was 20, 30 years younger, I would jump at it, absolutely. I loved it. But, everybody has their time. My time was then. It's time for someone else to take up the baton and really enjoy it. So much as though I would love to go back, I know it will never happen.
Job done. We're here in the Cotswolds. We're doing our walking.
Yes.
We're doing our cruising. Do you get out for more walks now? Have you got that time to
loads
enjoy?
Of walks. Absolutely. Every morning I've got an older dog who's 14 who doesn't walk as far as he used to do, a little dog we got from Battersea, a Cocker Spaniel. But I've got a 3-year-old who's a Newfie Doodle, a cross between a Newfoundland and a miniature poodle. And she's got a lot of energy. So my day is taken up of walking the old one a little bit, but then taking the younger one out.
Do you have to do separate walks to manage the energy?
Well, sometimes I walk them near the house, then drop the old one back and then take the young one off so they can have a walk together, and then I go. But it's great. I mean, the Cotswolds is just the most beautiful place to walk. My husband and I moved up here in 2007. We loved it. We always wanted to live out in the country. So this was our dream, and we just love it. I mean, I love walking. I do some horse riding and do stuff, and it's just really relaxing. No traffic. No worries, just great coffee, great restaurants, and lovely dog walks. It's perfect for me.
That sounds a bit of me.
I'm not a city girl, you see. I was born in Devon, so I was sort of, always brought up with the countryside around me.
I bet it feels nice to sort of have that stillness now after what has been the most incredible career. Now, I reached out to none other than Judy Murray last night, mother to tennis great Andy Murray, and of course Jamie too, and she had this to say about you.
Oh dear.
She was a world-class tennis player who became an exceptional TV presenter and national treasure. What's it been like to see Andy Murray's career evolve over the years? You've quite literally been there through every step of that journey.
Every milestone. I know. I remember when he was a teenager, when he first, came onto the scene playing at Queen's and winning matches. But he was this sort of tall, gangly teenager that had all these injuries, and he was playing this 3-set match and he got cramp and he fell to the floor and it was all dramatic. But you could just see that he had the potential to be great. But he was in the most amazing era with Federer, with Nadal and Djokovic. But there was something that was really special about the way he wanted to win matches, that competitive edge. He just seemed to have it. And he went to Wimbledon that year and played on centre court and looked like he owned it, right from being a teenager. Then I had the privilege of doing a documentary with Andy in 2013, just before he won Wimbledon, which was great timing. And I flew all around the world to film him in different locations, but going to Miami and seeing the training schedule that he had. I mean, on court, they work hard, but off court, I've never seen anything like it. The gym work he was doing, these Pilates machines that were putting him in positions that didn't look possible, hour after hour of building his body to make it stronger, because he knew to compete with those 3, he had to be able to last 5 sets in full speed. And just seeing his body evolve and his body change, we knew he had that competitive mindset, but then he had the body to match. He was a counterpuncher, so he had to work so hard to win those matches. So for me to see that, I just think this guy deserves everything that's come in his way. And when he won Wimbledon in 2013, if I could relive one moment of my broadcasting career, it would be that again, to announce him as the Wimbledon champion, the first British man for 77 years. It was just incredible. And the pressure and the expectation, it was lovely just this last Wimbledon to go back to do a sort of tribute to Andy in his last championships on centre court. He actually, for the first time, admitted how stressful that year was in 2013, carrying the hopes of the nation. We see it with so many sports stars, but for him, at Wimbledon, everyone just craved a British men's champion. I've never seen the country like it. You know, it's a bit like when the football's on, you know, the pressure and the expectation on the footballers. You know, everyone just was, and he's out there on his own. He's got no teammates around him. He's there having to deal with everything. It was incredible how he dealt with Djokovic and made Djokovic look ordinary that day. You look at the score, straight sets. It looks easy on the scoreboard, but trust me, it wasn't. He had to earn every single point. It was so hard, but wonderful. And then to come back and win it again 3 years later.
2016.
Yeah, it was great. You know, he is just...
Doing it once is something, but doing it twice really...
And also
cements that legacy.
Yeah, and how popular he became. I remember in 2012 when he cried on centre court when he lost to...
How was that to experience that?
God, you know, it was
because you've seen that lowest of lows.
I know, exactly. And I mean, the last thing I would ever want if I'd lost a tennis match is for someone to come out and stick a microphone under my nose. So I realised that what I was doing was extremely painful for the person who's lost the Wimbledon final. And I thought about, should I just let him go? Because I tried 3 times to ask him a question and he just broke down. The soft side of me just said, let him go. He doesn't need this aggravation. He doesn't want this upset. But the other part of me said, I know he wants to say something to the crowd. And so I just handed him the microphone and I said, do it in your own time. And
there's such power in that freedom.
Yes, because then he can get his, you know, because every time I was putting the microphone up to him, he just broke down. So this time and what he said was just so moving in the fact that he said he wanted to do it for the people and how much he loved their support. And it was great just this last year when he said it was so important for him to say that. And I think the whole public, the public's opinion of him changed a lot. You know, before that, there were a lot of people were split about, do they like Andy or not like Andy? Yeah. You know, he'd said a couple of things about the England football team that got the headlines and all that sort of stuff. But let's face it, every Scotsman that I know says things about the England football team. It was nothing new. Everyone just fell in love with him. And I think he won Sports Personality at least 3 times after that, you know. So it was a magical moment for him to do that. And to see what he's done in his career in that era, it's truly outstanding. And I think us as athletes can appreciate what he's done in the last few years, fighting a body that is breaking down, but still that desire to carry on. You know, even when he wasn't playing his best and losing to people that he knew he should win, his love and passion for the sport just shone through. And I admire that. And I know that him quitting, it's not going to be easy. It's in his DNA. And he's probably going to be the player that's most going to struggle with life outside of tennis.
That adoration and respect to see someone keep battling. I know myself, as I'm sure you've experienced, there is a point where your body goes, no, it's enough. And going on walks and drinking coffee is a lot softer. And I'm not going to lie, I thoroughly enjoy it.
I know, but he loves the training. I mean, I never enjoyed the training. He loves the training.
He was in a period of time. Imagine if those 3 players hadn't been a part of that generation. Do you think we would have seen Andy win more Grand Slams?
Oh, absolutely.
Or did they, you know, create that platform for him to reach that level?
Both.
Got the
absolutely both.
There,
absolutely both. He wouldn't have been as good a player, but he certainly would have won Grand Slams. I think all you can do is get to the top of the era that you are in.
Yeah.
And he would have certainly done that. But of course, the era he was in with these Federer, Nadal,
the
Djokovic
giants
going,
of tennis.
I mean, I've never known an era like it. And the longevity of all of them.
Yeah.
It's just amazing when you look at Borg, walked away from the sport in his mid-20s, you know. Agassi didn't play long. He didn't even enjoy the sport that much. So many of the female players didn't play like Andrea Jaeger. You know, no one had the longevity. Martina did. But other than Martina, no one before this era has ever gone on to play that long. And the Williams sisters. You know, Venus still hasn't announced her retirement and she's in her 40s. And another one that just loves the game. You know, it's just been the most incredible era with the Williams sisters and the guys. And it's been magical to be a part of it, you know, to be out there on court, interviewing them and getting to know them as people. I think Andy and I'll always be friends, you know, I really like to think that.
What was it like going back, watching that VT before you headed out onto centre court to help say farewell?
Yeah.
Essentially, how did that make you feel?
You know, that
watching that montage?
Well, I had to go and watch it a few times before the day.
Did it make you tear
Because
up?
Paul Davis said, look, he said, I know what you like. He said, you better come and watch it because the last thing they need is the interviewer crying and the interviewee's absolutely fine. I went in to see it 2 or 3 times in the days before we thought Andy would do it, but we didn't know whether Andy wanted to do it or not. You know,
Yeah.
it was a sort of a last minute sort of thing, but it was so emotional. And to have, I mean, wonderful words that these great champions, you know, all said. And I think it would have meant so much to Andy to have, you know, Venus and Novak and Rafa and Roger.
All of the greats
All
there.
of the greats, all the people that he shared the court with. And also what
and
he's
your
done...
fine self.
Yes.
Did you have to hide from him beforehand? Because that was a real surprise.
Well, of course, I was watching, but I couldn't tell anybody. And it was really weird because I thought, oh no, I can't tell anyone because if he suddenly decided he didn't want to do it, I'll look like an idiot. So I thought I can't say to anyone. And Wimbledon wanted it to be a surprise. But yeah, it was lovely when I walked out on court. It was just lovely to be welcomed back on centre court. And I saw Andy just look over and we just sort of smiled and just said, you know, here we go, one more time. Just one more time. This will be the last time. And I thought he was in great form. He was so funny. He told these amazing stories and he just played a tennis match, you know. But he was looking back over his career and the fun things and getting him to talk about his parents and his wife, Kim, because they're all part of Team Murray to allow him to do his tennis career. And I mean, the parents, as he said, you know, he's a parent now. He said, I can't imagine allowing your children to go away. But we all did it. You know, I left home when I was 17, yeah. And he went to Spain and Jamie went to France, you know. And so even, you know, in a very young age, you leave. But it's the thing, you don't want to stop your kids following their dreams. And Judy and Will, his parents, allowed him to follow his dreams. And Jamie followed his dreams. And they're both Grand Slam champions, which is incredible for a family. Particularly from where they came from.
Yeah.
You know, but they had to leave home. There wasn't any indoor facilities or places to play, you know, and that really needs to change. And then also to talk about, you know, his wife, he's got 4 kids. So to be on the road and to be training, and that's a huge responsibility for Kim to be there.
That's one thing Kim's going to be happy about when...
Yeah, Andy wasn't so sure though. Andy sort of said she may be a bit rocky, he said, for a few when he's home all the time. But no, I'm sure Kim will give him a roster and a list of things to do and when to pick the kids up from school and whatever.
As long as there's a bit of training in there and some coffee, I'm sure he's going to be fine.
But you know, it was interesting, Ames, when he said, I'd like to be in the coaching box. And I thought, I wonder if he's got his eye on a young player that he wants to mentor and bring forward, because that would be fantastic. Can you imagine having Andy Murray as your coach? I mean, he was the ultimate tactician. He knows how to play the big points probably better than anybody, you know, and to have him in your corner, teaching you tennis and teaching you the mindset. Oh, my word.
And the mentality towards the physical element as well. That's been something we've really seen in the last few years change, even with Cam Norrie. The physicality in the sport. And then Andy Murray himself, quite literally almost supersizing his body to be bulletproof.
Totally changed his
physique. You had a dab at coaching back in the day, didn't you?
Yes.
Ended with Tim Henman and a McDonald's.
I don't think Tim will thank me very much for my coaching abilities. He said I was a borderline scary, apparently, which I find quite offensive.
I wouldn't believe that for a moment.
Nor do I. I think he's winding me up. But no, I used to have to drive the kids back to they were at a boarding school near where I lived in Surrey. So I used to get the minibus and drive them home, and they used to hate their diet of boring plain pasta and a glass of milk. So I used to stop and get them Mars bars and Coca-Colas and McDonald's on the way home. And
you're like the naughty coach.
I was the naughty coach. But he says now
feeding Henman Mackie D's.
He does blame me for the fact he never won Wimbledon, because he says I compromised his athletic diet.
Yeah,
at that
sure.
We still go in the little raw box back bit and have a glass of champagne. So I think he's over it now.
He's got past it now. What was it like being back at Wimbledon on that broadcast side? Did you slide into the broadcast centre and see if your coat hook was still there?
I didn't look for my coat hook, but I did.
Do you
go
reckon
in there.
they've maybe pulled it off the pegs?
I'm sure they've whipped it off. It was very sweet of them. I mean, it was up there for years. My floor manager, Liz Thorburn, from years ago, put it up there.
Is that the lady that I met? No, I met your soundie.
Yes, that's Jo
yes.
Salisbury. She's my soundie and my personal photographer. I mean, most of the photographs she's taken at Wimbledon now adorn my walls at home. She's brilliant. She snaps me with everybody. It's a who's who of tennis. It's great. What
was the story behind the coat hook? Because I believe there's a little bit more to that than we may know.
It was Her Royal Wimbledon Highness, it was. Basically, I because I didn't want to crease jackets and that, I used to want somewhere to put my jacket or suit up, whatever, particularly on finals day, because you've got to walk out on court. I used to just stand in my suit and then take it off, hang it up, and just put some jeans on or something while the final's going on, so that it wouldn't be creased when I walked out on court with all the cameras there and everything. A lot of people used to want to come and hang their stuff up there. So she said, no, this is just for Sue. So we started off with Sue, and then it became HRWH, Her Royal Wimbledon Highness. And it was great. So that was my little personal hook for the outfits that I would wear.
Amazing.
At Wimbledon, because it was a long day. I mean, I used to get in for 8 o'clock in the morning. We would be on air at about 11, and then I wouldn't finish till 8, 9 o'clock at night. And I was doing BBC One, BBC Two. It was an incredibly long day, and it's very, very tiring. And as soon as I leave, suddenly they have one presenter from 11 through to 3 o'clock, and another one from 3. I thought, why didn't they do that?
You had to do the serious shift.
I had to do everything.
I reckon that's a testament to your ability, which surely only you can hold your head very higher.
Do you know what? It was possibly also because I wanted to control it in a way, because sometimes if you're not in the hot seat, you're not aware of what's going on, and I wanted to be across every story. So it was probably my own fault. I probably brought it on myself.
Because in reality, if you weren't there actually doing it, you'd be elsewhere across it.
You'd have to be across it, because it could be a major talking point for, the next hour or the next morning.
I feel like I'd be the same.
Yeah.
Let me at it, and I'm going to give you 110.
Yeah. It's a bit like when you do the Olympics. And the Olympics is really hard work, and you're doing all sorts of weird hours. But at the end of the day, you've got to be across it all. Otherwise, you miss things, and you can't miss things when you're the host of it, So.
All in. The all-in mentality. I like to adopt that. And now, Sue, you've been an incredible role model for me. I remember having a conversation with you about the trajectory of broadcast and my career. And you said one thing to me that really resonated with me and has given me that inner grit and fire. And that was that your career didn't come easy.
No.
In broadcast, and many people would see you as the GOAT, the greatest of all time at Wimbledon, and maybe not quite realise that your trajectory wasn't so linear.
No, well, when I quit playing tennis, I thought it wasn't like they are now, where they earn millions and millions of pounds. I didn't have enough money that I could retire and not have to work. I knew I had to get a job, so I went to BBC at Wimbledon and asked if I could be a commentator, and they very politely declined, because they said I hadn't won Wimbledon, and Anne Jones and Virginia Wade, who they had in their commentary team, had, so they were going to stick with them. And of course, back then they weren't covering every court, so they didn't need a huge commentary roster.
And that one thing that you said about winning Wimbledon, for me, I had a very similar experience. Someone once told me, well, you didn't win the Olympics,
Yes.
so why should it be you?
Exactly. You've then got to be creative and find a different route in. And I know we've been in contact a lot. I know you're doing that and you're doing it incredibly well. And you know I've always got your back and I'm there on the end of the phone if you ever need me. But, you know, it is important. You've got to find another way. And so I decided I'd try and go in through the presenter role if I couldn't get in as the expert. So that's when I started to look at that. And there was a wonderful guy that came over from Australia called David Hill, who was the boss of Sky, said he wanted me to present the tennis. And I went there and I was learning my trade, but I got so much flack from other presenters because obviously it was a very male dominated career back then, and they just didn't think that it was right for a woman, and particularly because I hadn't come through the journalistic side of it. I hadn't come through from newspapers or local radio or somewhere. I just come as them. And I said, well, everyone brings different strengths. You know, you're very journalistic and you can bring all the great words and put things together, but I've experienced it. You know, I know what sport's about at the very top level of the game. So I said, I bring different strengths. You know, we all have strengths and weaknesses, but they're just different. But it would have been very easy to just walk away and not fight, because I got a lot of flack for it. And I got a lot of flack in the newspapers, you know, having a woman doing it. But within a few years, it all changed. And you know what? It was Des Lynam was always in my corner. I used to see him as I was leaving Sky. He lived around the corner in Chiswick. And he always
Good place to live, Chiswick.
And he used to say to me, how did it go today? I said, I said, Des, I keep making these mistakes of doing this, that and the other. And he would give me so much advice and encourage me and say, keep going, you're doing a great job. And it was just nice to have someone that was supporting you. So I always thought, well, if I ever get that opportunity, I'm going to do the same, because I think it's important to encourage the next generation that are going to take over and do those things. But I did have to fight for it. I got sidelined for all sorts of jobs, but it all changed. That was probably from 88 to 93. And it all changed in 93 when the BBC came for me to present Wimbledon, and they wanted me to co-present the highlights with Harry Carpenter. Little did they know that Harry Carpenter was going to quit at the end of it. So then they thought, right, oh, well, we'll offer Sue a job. And that changed my life. It was just being
Isn't it crazy?
At the right time, right place. You know?
How by going away and doing your thing and mastering your craft elsewhere then does give you that curb appeal where it's then presented to you. And I definitely have experienced similar, and it's about just not giving up. How did you have that resilience in that moment of time? Because there weren't many females in broadcast, so
I think
there's no one to look to.
I think there was only one that I knew of, Helen Rollison, and there was only one other sports person that I knew of, and that was Bob Wilson, who was doing Football Focus on the BBC, and there was no other ex-athletes, that world-class athletes, sort of doing any broadcasting. But, you know, my coach taught me the biggest life lessons of all. He always said, look, I'm going to teach you how to play tennis, but most of these lessons you take for in life. And the one thing he always taught me is no regrets. Never be afraid to go out there and do your best. Never be afraid to fail. Just don't look back later on in life and say, I wish I'd had a go at that, or I wish I'd done that. He said, it's better to go out and fail, and at least you know, that's not for me, I'll go down another path. And so I was just determined to see whether this was my career, this was my path. And so regardless of what these guys had said, I always thought of what Mr. Roberts, my coach, had taught me is don't give up. Keep going until you either decide it's not for me or suddenly it is for me. It's so important to just give yourself a chance to succeed. If you walk away from it, then you never know. And I'm so thankful that now I haven't nothing that I look back on. Look, there's loads of matches I'd love to replay and do that, but certainly no regrets of anything. Because even the losses you learn from.
You really, really do, don't you?
Yeah.
It's quite incredible. When you look at your career as a tennis player or mine as a snowboarder, the failures actually result in long-term success.
Exactly. You learn way more from them and you can improve from them. And the same in broadcasting. When I walk off set and I think, I should have done that differently. I should have done that. You make changes in your mind. Whereas if it all goes well, you don't even think about it. So the only way you improve is sometimes by not doing it correctly.
The odd hiccup. Little hiccup here
That's life. That's life. That happens. You know, that happens.
You've made some big changes in the world of sport, in broadcast, but not just in front of the camera. You've also paved the way for equality and change for those in production behind the lens.
Amazing.
Do you feel proud of that.
I'm not sure I did pave the way. I think I possibly just was one that was prepared to sort of stick it out and do it. But when I look at who, what women are doing now in every sort of walk of life that I've been in, broadcasting, we've had this wonderful, Sally Richardson, female executive producer of Wimbledon, and she just retired now after, I don't think she had something like over 30 years with the BBC. We had a head of sport who was a woman, Barbara Slater. Just looking at Wimbledon, we've got a female chair at Wimbledon for the first time ever. We've got the first ever female referee at Wimbledon, the first ever on a Grand Slam to have a female referee, and a female chief executive of Wimbledon. But and you look at everywhere in broadcasting, I'm going to be sitting watching the Olympics, and along with yourself, we've got Claire Balding, Gabby Logan, Hazel Irvine, so many wonderful female broadcasters that are just taking it on another level. So I just sit back and say, great, good on you, and keep going, keep fighting, keep doing it, because it's not just because they're women, they are the best of the best.
Yeah,
and that's incredible.
It, Straight line under that. We went to watch Strictly last year.
We did.
Which was incredible. I
think you're more likely to do that than me. I'm definitely not going to do it.
I don't know, Sue. We went to watch Annabelle Croft.
Yeah. And Angela Rippon, because I knew Angela as well.
Yeah, Angela Rippon was there.
Now there's a trailblazer.
Has Angela Rippon's performance with the extremely flexible leg inspired you in any capacity to consider it?
No, I go and do my little yoga class, and I realise that I'm a long way from being Angela's flexibility.
Yeah,
no, thank you very much.
To be fair, I can't do that with my leg.
No.
Either.
I think it was her ballet training from years ago. That's probably what did it.
I wonder if we'll see any other tennis players in the mix in Strictly this year. Maybe Tim Henman. Surely he's been asked.
No, I've had that conversation with him. No, absolutely not. No, he said the only one he'd consider is doing the jungle.
Oh yeah, fair.
But I wouldn't want to eat that. Oh no, none of them for me.
None of that. Job done.
Job done.
We're out enjoying our countryside strolls. Are you enjoying this quieter period of life now? I know you love your holidays and your cruises.
Yeah, look, I'm a doer. I'm not a sitter arounder. I'd love to be busy and doing things, but you've got to move on in life. These things come to you, and I'll get involved more with some of the charities that I do work with, and maybe some more local charities and doing stuff. I've just literally done 2 books in the last couple of years, so that's kept me busy. But I think you've got to at some point just say, now I'm just, I don't think I'm going to be a gardener. I'm not sure that's going to be my forte.
Yeah, I don't think that would
I don't think
fit the bill for me either. I like the fresh vegetables, but
I do those. I do my veggies. I do my veggies. Got a lovely veggie plot, and that's doing well. I'm out watering it every night, so that's good. It's really tricky. I don't know what I'm going to do and how I'm going to deal with it, but you have to deal with it, and you've just got to make the most of it. Luckily, my husband loves traveling, and we did a trip to Asia for 3 weeks, and we'll have other trips. I think we're doing a round the world trip next year down to Australia, and visit my lovely hair and makeup girl who married an Australian, so we're going to visit her in Perth, and then on to Sydney and Melbourne, and then come back for maybe Tahiti, Hawaii, Vancouver, and do things. So we're planning that. So
nice. And your husband quite likes his bikes, as you like your cars, correct?
We both love cars, and he loves his motorbikes.
Do you go on the back of his motorbike?
I used to, but we almost got divorced because I wasn't concentrating, and as soon as the helmets banged to each other, it was like, not going to do that. But he's threatening to take me on it, because he said, all the lavender fields are out at the moment. He said, if you come on the back of the bike, you can see over the hedges into that, so we might do that. But we've just bought ourselves a 1961 Chevrolet Corvette. So we are out and about in that at the moment. So we love the old
You're definitely not keeping a low profile in that, are you?
No.
Retreating to the countryside and driving that around, parking in Tesco's. Have you ever done a track day?
Well, I've done track days where they let you go with your own car to learn how to do it, but I have driven up the hill in Goodwood.
No way!
I did, in a Ferrari, and it was fabulous. There was this great, not Formula One, but he was certainly a professional race driver, and I started going through the gears as I was going in this Ferrari, and he looked at me and goes, "You ain't getting out of second gear going up this hill, girl." He said, "You've got to put your foot right on the pedal and give him something to do." So I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, it's not my car, so that's fine." So we went and then he said, "Right, slow down now, push up, boom," like this. So he told me, and it was great. You know, I sort of box ticked that was.
Did you get it up out of second then?
No, because he said never get it out of second.
Oh, just keep it in there and just...
So they go boom, boom, and then boom. Yeah, so he said once you get into third, all the noise is gone. Whereas I was going first, second, third, fourth, and we'd just cruise up the hill.
Yeah.
But no, you don't get out of second, and you stop it, and then you just put your foot flat down, and off you go again. So it was brilliant. Yeah, it was good fun.
I actually drove at Goodwood last week, but I don't think it was probably at the same pace as you, because I was on a motorbike.
I'm okay.
And the engine of the motorbike was about the size of a car. I could literally barely put my feet on the ground, but that's definitely some experience. Going back to your books, though, has it been cathartic to write down and share those stories of your career?
It was, you know, and I suddenly realised how difficult it was, you know, leaving home at 17. I was the youngest of 3 kids, and to actually leave the UK to go and live in Newport Beach, California, where there were no mobile phones, there were no computers. I could reverse the charges maybe once a week to speak to my family.
Yeah.
I was what they called a tax exile. I was not allowed to come back in the UK for more than 63 days a year.
That is actually so hard to do, isn't it?
Yeah, and when you think of Wimbledon and Eastbourne, and suddenly about 4 or 5 of those weeks are taken up with tournaments, I really didn't get to see my mum and dad, my brother and sister, hardly at all. And I think, you know, I'm not sure how I did that, you know, when I think of it. But I think when you have these dreams that you're following, it's sort of like, this is what we got to do, you know, and I was so keen to do it. But it was a time where I think, you know, I'm not really too sure how I coped with that and how I did that. But, you know, trying to write all that down. And it's been lovely meeting so many people. Like just at Wimbledon this year, I had a Indian takeaway with Billie Jean King, as you do, up in the flat that she rents. And there were other players there, Françoise Durr, Betty Stover, Rosie Casals. And we were all sitting round having our curry, talking about friendship. And we were such good buddies because we didn't have entourages with us. We were each other's practice partner, confidant, shoulder to cry on. We were everything to each other. And that's developed such strong bonds with these people. I mean, sometimes I'd be practicing with Chrissy Evert 2 hours before I was playing her in the final. You know, it sort of wouldn't be heard of now. And it was lovely to see Chrissy and Martina at Wimbledon this year and give them a hug and everything, because we have such history and such a strong friendships that I'm not sure players today will ever have that, because they're very much cocooned within their own teams. They don't socialise together, and we have dinner together all the time. And so, you know, much as though we didn't make the money, I think we have the best, fondest memories.
The glory days of tennis.
I think so. I wouldn't, you know, if everyone said, oh, you could have 50 million and play now or do that, I'd take that, because I think the memories are more important, you know.
I feel like in my snowboarding career, I was lucky enough to touch on the sort of 2 sides.
Yes.
Having my sport as a non-Olympic sport, travelling, doing the X Games and the World TTR Tour.
Yeah.
Those hold my fondest memories.
Yes.
And I travelled with the girls,
yes.
the Aussie crew, the Norwegians, and they are my people and always will be.
Yeah.
And then the Olympics, for us in snowboarding and many of the free sports, definitely does change that dynamic.
Yeah.
So I'm going to claim that I was a part of the glory days as well. So
there you go.
That's adding a bit of
nice mix to have. What a nice mix to have, and then see it progress up to where it is now, you know.
So seeing as we're on the Monday Mile podcast, we like to ask all of our guests what their relationship is like with Monday, the start of the week. Do you like a Monday?
Well, you see, because I never worked 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, Monday was always my wonderful day off after a massive weekend of sport, you know.
Yes.
Because I used to do grandstand Saturday and Sunday, and then so Monday was a sort of chill out day. So Monday was always like a special day for me. It was great. So I've never had a bad feeling about Monday. Mondays have always been good to me, and I've been lucky that even through my tennis career, you know, Mondays have never been that important. Monday was always first round. So that was quite easy for me.
Yeah.
So
Just
I
get out
like
there.
Mondays.
Yeah, I like a Monday as well. And how about now? Has that changed at all?
Do you know, every day's the same. Every day
That's a great place.
I'm not sure it is, actually. Sometimes I need a little bit more definition, a little bit more structure in my life somehow. So suddenly when I have to look at my phone to find out what day it is, I know I'm in trouble.
See, a lot of people would say that they like that, but I like a bit of structure in it and a bit of routine for sure. And lastly, Sue, we like to ask all of our guests if they have a life motto or quote that they live by.
I think I've told you mine. It's no regrets. And I think that'll go forward for, you know, I want to go to places that I maybe never been to. I'm not sure where that will be because I've traveled most of the world, but I still want to challenge myself. But it's basically having no regrets and doing everything, trying everything and finding out what works for you. So I've always lived by that. I always encourage everybody to do that. And particularly young tennis players who maybe suddenly find it hard. Oh, I don't know whether I want to do it. Come on. And for anyone in sport, to become a professional sports person is such a privilege that you've got to give it 100%. Give yourself a chance to achieve those goals, because there's nothing in life, no job in life that will give you the same feelings that you have when you're a professional sports person. You know what it's like to be up the top, you know, just as you're about to start competing. And then the elation when you've finished it and job done. You can't get that in any other career. Push yourselves, enjoy it, and treasure it.
And lastly, because we touched on it and it really resonated with me, what would you say to someone, whether it be in broadcast, whether it be in sport, whether it be in day-to-day life, that has been told no?
Never give up. There's always a door to be opened somewhere. You know, I had to find the right person to open the door for me, and that was David Hill, who was looking to use athletes as presenters and then keep going and knocking on the door. I went to the BBC initially. I was told no. I went back to the BBC and was told yes. So you've just got to believe in yourself and keep trying and make things happen. Just keep knocking on the doors, keep using people as well. That's why I think anyone that can help you, like I use people like Des Lynam and David Coleman. I was never afraid to go up and ask their advice, and they really enjoyed sort of sharing it and encouraging, you know, me. So get involved, go with people that you look up to, ask their advice and go for it, but never give up, basically.
That is so, so strong. Be fluid and be inspired in pursuit of success.
Exactly.
Sue Barker, it has been an absolute privilege to walk a mile with you. Thank you so much.
I've loved it, Ames, and I will be following your career with interest, and good luck with everything.
You are the absolute best. Monday Mile listeners, you know what to do. Do make sure you are subscribed to the audio. It drops every single Monday morning in the early hours for you early risers. Monday Mile listeners, I really hope you enjoyed this one as much as I did. It's a wrap.